is here.
What's with the 2 thumbs up?
Somebody hit the thumbs up on it. So then, do this here, Robert. Can't wait for this session. Boom. So that's the comments over there. And then I can display those by clicking it here, and it'll bring them down to the bottom. All right, welcome to IAEI News Live, and I have a special guest, David Engelhardt. Guess what, buddy?
I'm not David Engelhardt.
No, he's online. Look, David Engelhardt says, good ETZ. Watch, I'll do this. Boom. There's David Engelhardt. See
All
that?
right.
So we got David, we have Laurel from Omaha. We got Robert from Omaha.
Omaha represented strong.
Yes, strong. Come early to the program. And we got Yummy Fudge. Good morning from Utah.
All right.
We got Yummy Fudge. So now we can start. And I have a special guest with me.
Who?
An owl. So Kyle.
Special guest in a special location.
We are in Washington, D.C. on Pennsylvania Avenue.
At
the
NECA HQ.
HQ, or is that headquarters?
Well, HQ
Same
is
thing.
short for headquarters.
Why do we go to acronyms in the electrical industry? It's NM Wire. No,
Yeah,
you know, it's AFCI, it's GFCI. We're even putting acronyms in the code now. But we're here at NECA, and I have a special guest, Kyle Krieger, which has not been on the program yet.
No.
You've not been on IAEI News Live.
This is my maiden voyage on IAEI Live.
Yes,
So
we
thanks
rehearsed
for
and
having me.
practiced all day yesterday and this morning. So
So
glad you were here. Thank you for being here.
thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, why don't you give everybody a little overview of who Kyle Krieger is?
All right, so Kyle Krieger, Executive Director of Codes and Standards for NECA, or the National Electrical Contractors Association. I just manage our Codes and Standards team and make sure that NECA is involved in the regulatory development process, part of our Government Affairs Division. And, just making sure we're well represented and our contractors are doing things how they're supposed to and keeping things safe out there, right?
You guys are very involved with electrical safety and National Electrical Code requirements. A lot of codes and standards, NECA members sit on those codes and standards.
Yeah, we have, so part of the work that we do is we have a standing committee. Our NECA Codes and Standards Committee is about 40 or so folks strong.
Yeah.
And we have a principal and alternate on all of 18 technical committees for the NEC.
Oh, wow.
Correlating committee, and then NFPA 72 correlating committee. We have representation on NFPA 70E and 70B.
Mm-hmm.
We have representation on NFPA 79, NFPA 99,
Yeah.
110, 111,
Nice.
soon to be 101, and 1078. So, as my predecessor used to say, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Oh, yes.
So we want to make sure that we're at the table when these important rules impacting safety and industry construction are being had, so we can be relevant in that discussion and help keep the industry safe out there.
I'm going to give you one more addition to, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Yeah.
If you're not one of the cooks, you don't know what you're eating. Okay?
I
And
like
that's
that
so
one.
true.
I like that one.
And what I like about, if you think about it, like you're on the correlating committee, you chair task groups. A lot of NECA members are chairs of Code Panel 10. Nathan Phillips is chair
Phillips,
Panel
the
10.
chair, Panel 17.
Great guy,
Mike
absolutely.
Weaver.
Michael Weaver is Panel 17.
Yeah. Panel
Another-
7, Kelly Lamp.
Absolutely. So that's what I mean by, if you're not one of the cooks,
Yeah,
you don't know what you're eating, because there are people that are involved with the code process.
Wait, did you just say that to so you could throw
Get the word eaten.
in there? a pitch to Eaton. Is that what I just caught?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
you're sneaky. You
I'm
are sneaky.
a sneaky little character.
Sneaky guy.
Yeah. But, oh, wait, we got Steve Spiker. Steve, you're going to have to correct me
Good
one day.
morning, Steve.
Yep, and David Englehart says, just be sure the acronyms are clear to their intent, as some have multiple meanings. Oh, we got Steve Cavaleris. Good to see you online, Steve. You know what? I missed your phone call. I was down at we were down at the international office last week.
Yes.
And we were working on the IAEI's analysis of changes for the 2026 code cycle. OMG, I am so excited about that book, because just based upon the dynamics of that room, Casey was there, we had David Williams, David Humphrey,
yeah.
We had Dean Hunter, we had Vince Delacroche from Siemens, myself, you, I can't remember who else was there. We went through each of those. Well, you were there. I'm telling them. Yeah. We went through each of those slides, starting in chapter 1, and
John McCamish.
John McCamish. That's right. John McCamish was there, and Laura. Right. Laura Hildreth was helping us with. She's pulling the book together and all that good stuff. I'm excited. I think, in my opinion, this 2026 book and presentation is going to be one of the best ever.
Yeah, a lot of horsepower behind the scenes.
Yeah.
They're driving that book and presentation. So a lot of valuable insight. I know I walked away learning something last week, not just contributing, but learning something as well. So.
And you know, we had a discussion, and I remember we were talking about 705.11 and the interconnected systems and Article 230. And there's comments that people have made about.
Is there something going on there?
No, it was a misunderstanding. Well, not a misunderstanding. I wasn't clear on if you tap into the service conductors via 230.40 lets you tap into the service entrance conductors to go to a PV system.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Or one of those other alternative energy systems. I was trying to understand, why don't I count that service disconnect as one of the 6? Okay.
Yeah,
and
that
I love it. David Humphrey was sitting across from the table, and he's like, well, and he went through in his Virginia way of explaining it, and it was beautiful. I was like, wow, okay.
Virginia, but not by God,
not West by God, Virginia. That's right. That's Virginia. Me. Yeah, right. That was a Virginian educating a West by God Virginian. So it was good, though. So and then Steve Cavaleris, I did a talk for his class the night before I went down. So thanks I'll give you a call back, Steve. And Rudy Garza's online. Don't forget to mention the work we did in Dallas last week.
Well, you're a little late to the game there, Rudy. We just did.
We just did. And thanks for joining in online. So NECA, okay, so you are Director of Codes and Standards for NECA, and you are involved with IAEI as well.
Yes, yeah. So
what's your involvement there?
Well, IAEI is, and I'm gonna steal one of Rudy's lines here, right? Rudy Garza's lines. And if you've attended any of the section meetings, and Rudy was speaking there, he often will say. Many of us in this room or in this industry can credit the work that we do to being part of IAEI and the networking that goes on there.
Absolutely.
So, I came up through the trade as an electrician, and then I was an inspector in the city of Milwaukee for 8 years, and that was Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Go Pack, right? Tim McLochie out there in West Hartford, Connecticut. Packer fan, if you're listening. As when I was an AHJ or working as an inspector, that was my first experience with IAEI and getting involved, and just the people you meet and the networking there. Yeah. So a lot of my roots are with the IAEI. In addition to that, one of the things that that NECA really focuses on, in fact, it's one of what I call our key tenets or core tenets. We have these standing policies. And since the very inception, NECA has always supported inspection, qualified inspectors, educating inspectors or helping to educate inspectors, and support licensing and qualified installations, qualified installers, things like that.
Yep.
So it's a very specific and intentional relationship. You know, we want to support the inspectors in any way we can. We value the relationship, we value the IAEI organization, and the ability to be part of these discussions and work with those folks and folks like you and everybody else that have the same values. You know, it's important for our industry because just installing it is you know, our members are contractors, right?
Right.
But it's just as valuable for contractors to have qualified inspectors out there looking at these installations to make sure that they're safe. And it also helps to weed out some of the not so value-driven contractors out there. Right?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's a level playing field for everybody.
Level playing field, right?
Absolutely,
you know,
right.
Contractors, they don't mind following the rules as long as they know what they are, right?
Oh,
you know,
absolutely right.
And that's the important piece here, is to make sure that everybody's on the same page and that the work is safe at the end of the day. So
Yeah, and
that
you know,
comes from inspection.
It's interesting when you say, like, you look at your career. I like the way you went back and went back to your inspection days. You know, when I did not have the benefit. I did not get involved with IAEI till later in my career because I was a design engineer, and I sought out training from just like a supplier would come to our office and give us a lunch and learn, right? Or we would do our own training when I worked at the consulting engineering firm. We would do our own training internally. I remember Frank Angelini teaching coordination and short circuit studies and things like that. We never really talked about the National Electrical Code. We never had NEC educational materials. And if I would have known back then about the IAEI and going to some local chapter meetings, because you're right, it's one thing to watch a presentation, but it's another thing after the presentation, going back to the coffee pot, walking around, talking to vendors, and then you hear those side conversations that spark the engagement, and then you build a relationship, and then you're growing your Rolodex.
And I've only got one thing to say, right? The best discussion for you Western Section members out there.
Yeah.
How much code discussion happens at the R&R Ranch?
Oh,
every Western Section
you
meeting?
are absolutely right.
You know, it's so.
Yes.
Not to mention the great education stuff that goes on during it.
Yeah.
And from the contractor perspective. What a valuable resource to have that education, by the way, coming from the inspection group, right?
Yeah.
So the folks that are out there inspecting your projects are telling you what the rules are and how they interpret things. That even goes even further into advancing a contractor's cause. So now they're getting the information right from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, absolutely right.
But I could not agree more. The amount of networking that goes on in the IAEI community, how valuable that is. You know, I would have never thought in a million years when I started in the electrical industry that I could be a code geek for a living, right?
Yeah,
you know, and be involved in the process and do what I'm doing right now for NECA.
And then, like we did last week, we sit down with a smaller group, and Rudy mentioned Casey Littlefield and John McCamish. Those were the two. Rudy's like, he goes, Casey Littlefield was there too. he's like, don't forget Casey Littlefield.
You said Casey. I thought you said
I did
Casey,
say Casey, but it may not have. I didn't say Casey Little. I didn't have his last name in there. But what's whoops meant IAEI, yummy fudge. Yeah, I remember that.
Whoops meant IAEI.
Oh, I don't know. I have to look back up to the top. Michael Hofkins in the house. Welcome, Michael. Ryan Jackson's in the house.
Two of your favorite guys. Me and who else? You're not talking about Tom, are you?
Yeah, he is.
Tommy Short Pants?
Yes. You mentioned networking at the table. Tom brings up interaction with folks on the panel is good, but how do we do that in the modern day? It's 2025. Where is an effective online solution today?
So, is the question where's an effective online solution for networking with the code panel members, or being involved in the code making process?
Maybe both.
So, this is it's a slippery slope, right?
Yeah.
Like the online. So we're talking about the code making process. I will say, being part of the 2023 code making cycle that took place, during the COVID era.
Yeah.
That was a challenge. Doing a week or two of virtual meetings, trying to stay engaged and keep folks engaged, reviewing public inputs and public comments virtually was a challenge. And I feel like there was a huge part of the engagement that suffered as a result.
Yeah.
Not to say that it can't work. It's just that that we're all guilty of it, right? The virtual meetings are it's low-hanging fruit for multitasking.
Yeah, that's right.
There's some NFPA standards where all of the meetings are virtual, right? Because it's a smaller standard or smaller engagement.
Oh, that's true. 110 and 111 was all virtual, and
even
so
beyond COVID.
73,
right?
Even beyond COVID, yeah.
So there's a place for it. It's just from a code making process, and NFPA, they have policies and regulations and stuff that they have to comply with in order to maintain their ANSI accreditation,
right.
Which I think it plays a part in limiting the virtual guests during the code making panel meetings that are in person.
Sure.
And that's that's part of their procedures and their processes.
Yeah.
Now, as far as engaging with code panel members virtually, stuff like this right here is a great
IAEI News Live, man.
Great opportunity to engage with
look, you got
individuals.
You've got just looking at this list. You've got Nihad El Sharif is here, right? Nihad's on panel 2. You have David Engelhardt. He's involved with standards. I know that he's on 943 and a few UL 67. I think he's on UL standards. You've got where was he? I just looked. Not John McCamish. He was here. What's his name? Ryan Jackson. Ryan Jackson's on panel 17.
Panel 3.
And 3, right? I think he's on 17 and 3. I know he's on 17 because he didn't vote the way I wanted him to vote on one item. We got Susan Newman-Scarcey. She's tell me you're effective presenter and your passion was infectious early years. Yes, Susan is here, so she's chair of 6.
Yeah.
Panel 6.
Absolutely.
We were just you just commented about how good of a job Susan did.
She did an amazing job as chair of Channel 6. So
yep, she
welcome,
did an amazing
Susan.
job in a dynamic world, especially right now. Panel 6 is going through a lot of changes, and a lot of them are controversial, and you have to be a really good chair in those environments.
Yeah.
Yep. Robert from Oberhall, not only safe from an operating perspective, but to fail in a safe manner. It's not if electrical systems and circuits, it's when. Yep. Safety is important, and it continues to happen, Susan says. Thank you, Susan. Yummy Fudge. This is the one place where interactions happen, and it's awesome. But it's once a week, and nothing else, really. Yeah, you know what? We're doing some more sessions with, do you want to tell them?
Shameless plug time?
Is it shameless plug time?
Yeah, I mean, why not? And I just sent you a link too, so if you want to drop it into your
chat?
to your email, yeah. So one of the things that brings Tom and I together this week is we're here at NECA headquarters recording some episodes of the newest member of the NECA podcast, vlog, video library, Code Question of the Day Spotlight, which is a new podcast that Eaton was kind enough to sponsor through our magazine and the Code Question of the Day.
Yep.
They've been a longtime sponsor of Code Question of the Day. If you're not familiar with the Charlie Trout Code Question of the Day, I believe Tom may have just dropped the link in the chat so you can go and sign up. Code Question of the Day is a daily email, goes out Monday through Friday, new question, previous day's question and answer, and has been doing so. Charlie Trout, longtime NECA member, started it back in 1998.
Yep.
And just, from his own email, blasting the questions and answers out. And that's something that NECA felt it was very important to keep going even after Charlie's passing in 2015.
Yeah.
So the entire archive and history, every code question that was asked and answered is on NECA's website at the necanet.org code question of the day link that Tom just put in the chat as well. So you can view the archive. It's searchable. There's about 6,000 plus questions and answers on there.
Yep.
There is a area where you can sign up for code question of the day. There's an area where you can submit a question if you've got one.
Yep.
And we'll add it to the list.
And it might be on the video.
And it might be on the podcast. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you sponsor for the IAEI Western section.
Yeah. Well, and we're going to expand that this year because we found out the Western section does the code question of the day breakfast, the Charlie Trout
breakfast.
And Charlie Trout was a longtime member of the IAEI Western section, right?
Absolutely.
But there's other sections that do the code question of the day breakfast as well, and NECA would love to get involved with that as well. So we'll have some more of them popping up.
That is absolutely awesome, and that's this is what I really love. It's the support both directions. You're on the board of directors for IEI as well.
Yeah.
I'm on the board of directors as well. We're taking that I think together with the other board of directors and with Rudy's leadership, we are really taking the organization to the next level and making a lot of changes. Even the name change was a healthy change for us to recognize the fact that you are an IEI member and you're a NECA. You're not an electrical inspector now. You're still an IEI member. I'm an electrical engineer, an IEI member. It's not just a home for the electrical inspectors. It's it's one umbrella that we can all sit under and talk about safety.
Yeah, IAEI has always been about the education.
Yeah.
And it's an inspector-driven association, right? There's a lot of contractors that are members of that association as well. We encourage all of our contractors to be IAEI members.
Yep.
We will sponsor our Codes and Standards Committee members to be members of IAEI because we value that membership and the resources that are there. But it's important to be inclusive of the contractor folks that are seeking out that education as well, or anybody in the industry, not just contractors, engineers, and whatnot.
Sure.
And to be honest, the electrical inspection landscape has changed quite a bit over the last decade
absolutely.
or so, even before, maybe even the last 20 years. With the multi-hat inspectors and consolidation of resources at local governments and whatnot, the inspector group, electrical inspector group, is shrinking, right? Or electrical is not their first discipline, right?
Yep.
It's just another feather in their cap that they're doing that in addition to plumbing or construction. So to just have an association strictly for electrical inspectors is limiting, right? Why not open it up for anybody who wants that education, and the industry's going to be better for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go back to some questions. Yummy Fudge. At a glance, looks great. Is there a way to submit questions or a place where members can answer questions they don't get highlighted? Yeah, so from the code question of the day, you can submit the questions. That will go into the pile, and then Kyle's team of researchers will get on it and answer all of the questions that come in.
Yep.
And then I look at some of that as fodder for the Western section and maybe the other sections to do for their code panels as well. So funnel question. I mean, if you have, there's no such thing as a stupid question.
No.
You pop them in and we get them answered.
Absolutely. So that same link takes you to the web page that has all the CQD resources on it, whether it's the archive of questions, and then there's also a drop down on the left hand side that you can click on to submit a question.
Yep.
And it's not just so everybody understands, it's not, if this is something you're looking for an answer right away on, this is not the platform. Because,
yeah.
Because we get, 40 or 50 questions in over the course of a month, and then we do them as they come in, they go out in the email blast. So you might be in a queue 40 or 50 deep before your question gets answered. So
but it will get there.
Yeah, it'll get there. So if there's something more pressing, you can reach out to the IAEI office.
Sure.
That's a service they offer for their members is answering code questions, and
Absolutely
and there's
right.
a little more urgency in dealing with those.
Yep.
And certainly if you reach out to NECA directly, NECA membership and AHJs, if you got a question, we'd be more than happy to get an answer for you.
Excellent. And then Rudy says, love it or hate it, AHJs are turning more and more to combo inspectors, combination inspectors, and they need to be trained on how to best inspect electrical installations. Thus, IAEI, absolutely right. So that's the,
and the ICC relationship with IAEI.
That is so important, and a lot of people miss that connection, because when we connect and we build a relationship, which is what we got. A lot of people think, ICC now owns IAEI. Couldn't be further from the truth. It's the relationship. It's the olive branch that happens between the two organizations, and the back and forth, and where the ICC says, hey, you guys and gals are the electrical experts. Let's take what your knowledge is and put it into our curriculum, or put it into our testing standards and all that jazz. So there was a huge opportunity that I think we've been missing for ages and decades.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Rudy made that happen, and I think that's going to help our organization just in general to branch out to say, look, you may inspect plumbing today, but you're going to be, like you said, you're going to be looking at electrical or structural, and they're all interrelated too. I mean, you look at ASHRAE, you look at the energy codes.
Yeah, we just talked about it yesterday, actually. It's not enough as an electrical professional, whether contractor, designer, engineer, inspector. Knowing the NEC is only part of the story.
That's right. Yeah.
And yes, it is absolutely the widely adopted installation minimum requirements, but there are so many other standards and building codes. If you look at ICC suite, whether it's the fire code, the residential code, the existing building code, the energy conservation code, all of these things have an impact on how electrical systems are installed.
Yeah.
And if you're not familiar with those, even if you're not a multi-hat inspector, if you're not familiar with those requirements, you could end up in a situation where you have a non-compliant installation. It may comply with the NEC, but it doesn't comply with the building code. And what we're seeing, we do see some of the building code requirements that impact electrical. They've made their way into the NEC over the years.
Yep.
But it's been a slow process, right? Exit stairwells is one of them, right?
Oh,
is that we see in Article 300 now. That's been in the building code forever.
Yeah.
And one of the examples I like to use is when I was in AHJ during the big initial cell tower push, right? Where cell towers were going up, and everybody was leasing their high-rise rooftop space to cell towers, and we would see these contractors come in, and they'd pull an electrical permit to run a 200 amp feeder up to the roof of this building for a cell tower, and it was an NEC compliant installation. Only an electrical permit was obtained.
Yeah.
And they'd run a 200 amp feeder right up through the egress stairway.
Oh.
Right next to the standpipe for the fire suppression, or the
can't do that.
Connection for the hose. So here you had a situation. This is prior to the language that we have in 300 Article 300 now for exit stairways. But it was a building code requirement violation, not an NEC violation. And if the electrical inspector isn't familiar with those building code requirements, how many of those are installed out there to this day that have never been flagged?
Wow.
Or even worse, it gets flagged 2 years after it's been installed, and now that property owner has this huge correction that they need to make.
Yeah.
So there's so much overlap, and there's so many different requirements and standards and codes that the building code it brings in, like NFPA 101,
Oh, yeah, life
NFPA
safety.
30, you know, all
Oh,
these
yeah.
things that have small segments of electrical in them.
Yeah.
NFPA 13, all these different
Absolutely
standards that we have to be aware of as electrical professionals. So ICC and IAEI relationship is a big one.
Is a big one, and I think it's going to produce a lot of good fruit moving forward. So Michael Hofkin pointed out the fact that the Electra City program is targeting those combination inspectors, and that's the focus. So, you know, and that's just one program and a really good example of what we can do together as an organization. So we have a great relationship with the NFPA, and our engagement with the National Electrical Code and other NFPA documents, NFPA 99 and 70E, et cetera. We've got a great relationship with ICC. Rudy reached out to Megan Hayes and to the crew at
NEMA?
At NEMA, and we're building that relationship with NEMA and other organizations as well. So I think that having those partnerships is critical for the success of the organization. All right, Michael Hofkin, Yummy Fudge. He says, I have presented and talked with 3 groups near him, both local government and private organizations, but things like electricity went over like a lead balloon. I'm not giving up, though. Yep, Yummy Fudge, keep the faith, brother. And sometimes, you know, put it this way. There was a rock band named Led Zeppelin. They were told that they were never going to go anywhere, so they named the band Led Zeppelin. Okay, I'm just saying. Rudy says, ICC electrical certifications are now IAEI ICC electrical certifications, joint certification programs that exposes building officials to IAEI who may not have heard of IAEI but know ICC. So that's the other aspect. ICC has got some good brand recognition, and when you hitch your wagon to another organization that has good brand recognition and others as well, I mean, we're not done. ICC is, in my opinion, it's not where you're going to stop. So co-branding really helps build the organization's recognition. So, and Rudy's doing a good job at that. Okay, so let's talk code changes. We sat down in.
Wait, the code's changing again?
You know what? I think, if I'm not mistaken, every X amount of years.
Okay.
Yeah. And sometimes there are big changes. Sometimes there are small changes. We saw a lot in the 2023. We saw a lot of style manual changes where you had the informational notes would change and all that. But there are, I think, some significant advancements from a safety perspective coming down the pike. We're still in process. We have the annual meeting, and then there's one more bite. I call it bite at the apple, which is appeal to Standards Council. But by the time you get to the Standards Council, that's more of a procedure.
Yeah, procedural appeal and making sure that the process was followed.
Yeah, and there's
but,
no technical.
But yeah, there's
delays.
still certified amending motions and the technical meeting, but the second draft correlating committee is complete.
Yep.
The balloting, I think, is out and due on the 21st of this month, February 21st, if I'm not mistaken, for the correlating committee.
Oh, okay, yeah. You know what? I just had one of those moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, did I submit my ballot?
No, the
correlating
technical committee meeting ballots. You should have done that a while ago, Tom. And if you didn't, well,
no, I did.
Hopefully, your alternate took care of it for you.
That's the purpose of an alternate.
Yeah,
right?
there you go.
When you fall asleep, but. Man, I had one of those. My stomach turned. I'm like, oh my gosh.
What are you talking about
What
now?
are you talking about? I'm just learning this now.
So what are some of the changes you want to talk about?
Well, you know, so here's one of those. I think that will be controversial. Not controversial.
Yeah,
I think
impactful.
Impactful is going to be 110.16.
Yes.
The arc flash requiring an actual arc flash label that's developed by. Hello, we have somebody over here who wants to go live with us. We're at the NECA headquarters, and we're in their, what is this, a cafeteria?
Yeah, cafe,
cafe.
lunchroom, multi-purpose space.
Yeah, so we're in the cafe, and people come in and out, which is good. I love the look of this place. I love the, it's different.
It's a nice space.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. They got the telephone poles back here with the LED lines for each of the phases. You can see them right over top of your head there. I love the black and gold. As a Pittsburgh fan, as a Steelers fan, I'm loving the black and gold.
I don't think that's the reasoning.
I think it is the
Yeah,
exact reason, because everybody's a Steelers fan. Everybody out there is watching Steelers fan. So, but 110.16 arc flash label, I think. And we had this discussion a little bit, and I'm working on some material for Paola, for the and Laura for the IAEI News, IAEI magazine. I'm trying to do comparisons between you have NFPA 70E, which is safe work practices, and you have then an NFPA 70, which is an installation requirement, and they work together. They build a what do you call it, they have to have a good working relationship because one can't step on the toes of the other.
Yeah, there's a reason why the correlating committee oversees 70E and 70, right, and 70B. To make sure that there isn't this, at odds. This is one. There's always been this scope creep concern with the 110.16 labeling requirements related to arc flash and in the NEC, and then the Article 130 stuff for NFPA 70E, right?
Yeah, and that, and then the other one was 240.87 and 240.67 arc reduction requirements.
And 67,
Yep.
right? And I think that we had some discussion offline about this, and I think you made great points. We have so many labeling requirements in the NEC already.
Sure.
that directly impact worker safety.
Yeah.
Why the one that is probably the most impactful from a justified energized work standpoint?
Yep.
Why don't we have that labeling requirement? And then we had a couple of editions of it where we tried to dance on that line and try to respect that
Sure.
scope creep, where it's we're just going to mark it with the installation stuff, right? The clearing time of the overcurrent device and the available fault current and those types of things. And it's like, yeah, that gives you part of the story, but if we have a standard that establishes best practices for workplace safety with electrical hazards, that tells us the information that we need to keep employees safe.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we want to put that in from an installation standpoint? From an electrical contractor standpoint, we love it, right? This has always been a huge challenge for us.
Sure.
You go into a facility that doesn't have the incident energy analysis done.
Yeah.
And you have a customer that is looking for you to do some troubleshooting or get some of their equipment back up online, where it falls under one of the exceptions for energized work, right?
Right.
And you have to tell them that, look, we need to evaluate this system, and this study is going to cost some money.
Yeah.
And now that customer says, well, okay, I'll just find a different contractor that'll do it without the study.
Right.
And they will, and they'll find somebody that's going to be willing to do it. So now you've just circumvented a safety requirement. We're making this part of the installation. I know it's not retroactive.
Right.
But at least moving forward for those jurisdictions that adopt the 2026 NEC, new installations are going to require that industry standard compliant label.
Yep.
So to me that helps considerably.
And the other aspect, and I was teaching a class on 70E, and we had this discussion about, is establishing an electrically safe work condition energized work?
Well, go ahead. Finish.
Yeah.
They addressed it in the 2024.
Yeah, they did.
They did, which is great, because it was like one of those, chasing your tail thing, right?
Back and forth. And then OSHA just released it's not a requirement, but it was more like a information.
Yeah, informational sheet. Yeah.
And so the discussions that we've had in the past is that when you turn something off, you have to verify absence of voltage. And when you're in that equipment,
But turning something off itself is normal operation of electrical equipment, which is
as long as it's well maintained.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. Yeah.
So how do you verify something's been properly maintained without turning it off and looking at it?
That's, oh man, we go round and round and round. Yeah.
You know, you kind of get into the same discussion when you're talking about shock PPE, right? Your V-rated gloves.
Yeah.
We have to identify the nominal voltage of the system in order to select our V-rated gloves. And I'll get questions in training sessions. Well, why nominal voltage? Well, because the only way you can determine the actual voltage of the system is to take a voltage measurement, which would require you to expose yourself to the hazard.
Yeah, and you need gloves for
and
that.
You need gloves for that. So how do you get to A or get to B without stopping at A first?
Yeah,
So these, to me, it makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. So, I think that's going to get a lot of good dialogue, and the industry will have to respond, and we'll create more labeled environments for electrical workers, and then 70B maintenance will have to make sure that we keep those labels updated moving forward.
Yeah, and that's something that came up in some correlated committee discussion. The dates, right? So there's a perceived inconsistency when you look at the requirements in 110.16 and the requirements for labeling in 70E. You know, 70E says that the study has to be evaluated for accuracy in time frame not to exceed 5 years. And I'm paraphrasing, right?
Sure.
Or when there's a major modification. And major modification, when we're talking about incident energy, major modification sounds like, oh, we're changing out huge components in the system. But you change an overcurrent device, and that's a modification that's enough to alter everything downstream from it from an incident energy standpoint.
That's right. Yeah.
So that would, in my opinion, would necessitate a revisiting of that study to make sure nothing's changed.
Absolutely.
So back to the date piece, you know, the 70E standard says reviewed for accuracy not to exceed 5 years.
Yeah.
110.16 says that there has to be a date on that label when the study was done.
And 70E doesn't require a date on that label.
So in my mind, 70E requires you to look at it every 5 years. The date on the label from when the study was done is just a tool for you to know if it's time to evaluate the study again.
That's right.
So, there may be a perceived correlation issue. The only way you're going to know it's time to review your study is if you know what the date when it was done. So we're just putting in a convenient spot in the NEC for the worker. So, realistically, it comes down to hazard assessment. If I'm the electrician that's going to be performing the energized work that falls under the exceptions to 110.2 B or whatever and 70E.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be doing energized work like testing or troubleshooting, if I can see the date on the label, that's part of my hazard assessment, right? I look at the date, and if that date is older than 5 years, I know that maybe it hasn't been recently reviewed.
Exactly.
And so that's important to me. To me, in my mind, I would want the date on the label. If I had a choice.
Oh, I would too.
Because that electrician is likely not going to go hunt down a facilities person and say, hey, go get me the information on the incident energy analysis the last time it was reviewed.
Yeah.
They may, but that's an extra step when we could just have the dates on the label.
That's exactly right. Laurel pointed out 70E is 120.6 is that process for establishing and verifying.
Yep, 120 is, and I love the new layout of 70E, by the way. The 2024, putting things in that logical order, right? Here's how we determine when it's permissible to do energized work in 110.
Yep.
When 120 is establishing an electrically safe work condition, right? It's in the order now that we should be processing that safety, right?
That's right. That's right.
When can we do energized work? How do we establish an electrically safe work condition? And then if we can't establish an electrically safe work condition, here's how we mitigate those hazards
exactly,
in
yeah.
130,
Yeah.
right? How do we do? What are our processes for
And they
performing the work?
They moved that, or the sense of establishing the electrical, they moved it, they keep moving it further and further higher up in the book.
Yes.
So closer to the beginning of is it 110, right?
120 is the
120.
lockout takeover establishing electrically
yeah.
safe work condition. 110 is where we saw some things that were in 130 got moved up to
That's
110.
right, yeah. Excellent. So, yeah, so 110.16, that'll be a good one, and I think there's a lot of opportunity there. What else is big? We didn't change much on the receptacle. I thought for sure there was going to be an effort to put a receptacle on an island or a peninsula to require a pop-up. I thought that I mean we chatted about it a little bit, but we didn't really change those requirements in 2026. We did add some clarity on the importance of not putting a receptacle. We had some clarity trying to address the possibility that you could read and still put a receptacle below the countertop in a kitchen. So we're trying to fill and plug those holes. Whether or not we got there, I don't know. And the code cycle this year, or this next cycle, I think public inputs are going to be due somewhere in April
Of
2026.
yeah.
And it's usually September, October timeframe.
Yeah, because of the reorganization efforts, I think that they're up in the timeline a little bit.
Yeah. So reorganization.
Yeah.
You want?
Oh, you want to open up that can of worms?
I don't
huh?
know. I don't know if we want to open it, but I think I think that it's coming. They're going to have an annex with. Are they going to have an annex?
Yeah, there's going to be an annex. So a couple of things. If you go to nfpa.org/70, right? That's the landing
Yep.
page for the NEC. There's right at the very right next to the image of the 70 document, the NEC document. There's a little blurb in there that talks about the reorganization and a link to a dedicated website that explains and covers the reorganization efforts for 2029.
Okay.
And then it allows individuals to comment. So if you've got an opinion or you've got some feedback on the reorganization, that's information, that NFPA, the NEC Correlating Committee, we want to hear that information because you are all the stakeholders, right? You're the ones that have to
absolutely.
use the document.
Yeah.
Additionally, the structure is going to be in an annex for the 2026 NEC, the proposed new structure.
Okay.
And by putting it in the 2026 annex, it allows public
comments.
input and public comment.
Yeah. So you put it in the annex for 2023.
Yep.
Now people can comment on the annex material
Through the normal code process.
But it's going to be published, and you've got till. I think it's like more towards the end of April to make public input. So you have a very short window
Yeah.
to start that ball. So my gut, and one of the things that one of the processes that I've used in the past, if in my public input, I don't necessarily have to be perfect as long as you get the topic on the table. So even if you say, I want to make a change, but I'm not sure what the change is, you make a suggested language change, and in your panel, in your substantiation, tell what you're thinking so that the code panel has something to go on, and that gives you more time from the public comment phase to go back and revisit.
Yeah, because you can't, the public input is where the door's opened, right? That's as long as even if the code making panel, they vote it down during the meeting, it doesn't make it to ballot, that door is still open then for the public comment to refine and address some of the concerns maybe the code panel had.
That's right.
So it's definitely important to get the public input in, even if you don't have it maybe perfected. I'm in no way encouraging anybody to submit public input that is not perfected or substantiated.
Yeah, you need good substantiation.
But if there's definitely something that you think needs to be addressed, and you have substantiation, technical substantiation, and the code panel chooses not to take action on it, at least then you can come
Yeah.
back in the public comment stage. Because if you do nothing in the public input, you're hoping somebody else is going to address that same section where you have the
That's right.
ability to comment on it.
That's right. And that's a value of being a member of IAEI, because you can work with our panel members and
Yep.
say, this is what I need to be done, or this is what I'm seeing. And then together you guys can formulate a healthy public input to get that on the table for the review.
Yeah, just having the background, the access to code panel members at the section meetings, where there's the Q&A, right? And you
Yeah.
have all the code panel members up on the discussion panel. Getting that insight from the discussions that took place during the code making process that can help refine and improve it for the next edition is pretty valuable information.
Yeah, Robert says, Robert from Omaha says, when is Article 130, the name, going to include the word justified? Justified
Well,
energized work.
Let me give you my opinion on this.
Okay.
And it's in 110 now. It used to be in 130, but now it's in 110. So and they don't call it justifications for energized work anymore.
No.
If you look at the 2024 edition in 110, they did something that, in my opinion, should have been this way all along.
All right.
Our code structure, when we see a rule, we have the rule, and then if there's extenuating circumstances that necessitate an exception, we create an exception for it.
Right.
That's what they did with 70E. Instead of saying, here's guidance on when energized work is justified,
Right.
meaning that's in positive code text, right?
Right.
Saying, here are the justifications for energized work. The rule now in 110 is the priority shall be placed on establishing an electrically safe work condition.
Right.
So the rule is you got to shut it off.
Yeah.
And you have to use 120 to establish that electrically safe work condition.
Yep.
Then they put the justifications into exceptions 1 through 5 to the main rule of establishing an electrically safe work condition. That's how it should have always been. The
Yeah.
priority should always have been, and the intent was to have it there.
I think it was, and then they took it out,
Yeah.
and then they went back.
And to have it now that way, I think
Yeah.
the priority, the focus is on that priority.
Yeah.
And saying only now, if you can't establish an electrically safe work condition, can you apply one or of these exceptions.
Sure. Yep.
And then it's basically the same guidance. The only thing that they added, right, was so we had this normal operation of equipment was energized work, right?
Right.
So that's an exception, and you have 7 criteria that you have to apply in order to perform normal operation of electrical equipment. Well, when you're establishing an electrically safe work condition, you have to normally operate that equipment, right?
Yeah.
So there's a new exception to that list that says if you're operating an isolation disconnect and to establish an electrically safe work condition or restore something back to service from an electrically safe
right.
work condition, that would be permitted energized work. So you don't have to, now you don't have those 7 criteria. And
Sure.
it's for what we just talked about
Yeah.
before. How can I verify that it's been properly installed, properly maintained without shutting
Looking
it
at
off and doing an inspection?
Yeah. You're going to have to go through that process. Susan says, what are the concerns or cons of expanding requirements for surge suppression protection devices past residential?
Yeah, so the expanded surge protection requirements because of the AFCIs and GFCIs, right?
Well, so here's the thing. Here's my issue with putting those two together.
It sounds like a coup from the manufacturers,
Well,
Tom.
no. Here's the thing. Surge. If you look at 90, Article 90 tells you the code is for protection of persons and property.
Yep.
I don't need to say, oh, well, I need to protect my smoke detectors and my AFCS and my GFCS. No, if I could show you that you lose $1 billion worth of televisions, And you go, well, there's nothing safety related to that. Well, it's still a code requirement because it's about protecting property as well. It doesn't have to just be a life safety thing.
Well,
so, no, but we put some requirements in Article 700 a while ago.
Yeah.
We put,
everything life safety related, right?
Yeah.
Fire pumps,
Yeah.
emergency systems,
Yeah.
elevators.
Yeah, again, there's some industrial control panel requirements too, but I think they delineate that when it's used in those types of
For safety
applications.
circuits.
For safety circuits.
Yeah.
But it's not just about I think I get a little irritated sometimes when the implication is it's only when it's life safety related because of that term property. If I can show that I can damage property and I never kill a soul or never hurt a soul, it's still fodder for the National Electrical Code.
Yeah, I think the life safety implications just helps the cause.
It does. It helps.
Right?
Yep.
And because we now have all of these devices required for life safety,
Yeah.
AFCIs, GFCIs.
But what's the
So on down the
concerns?
line.
What's the concerns?
Well, the expanded use and operation of it, right? The cost implications. Is it going to impact? And I'm making assumptions based on Susan's comment, but for local adoption, what do we see?
Yeah.
Flat out opposition because of the expanded AFCI and GFCI requirements
Yeah.
from different groups. So now you're going to say on top of that, surge protection's required. That's another cost that I
So
think
there's-
certain groups are going to potentially oppose.
So it's a financial or commercial issue, not a technical. There's no, I can't think of a technical reason.
yeah, the logic is there, at least in
Yeah.
my mind, right? So
Right.
if we have electronic sensitive life safety equipment that's subject to damage from
Yeah.
an overvoltage situation or surge,
Yeah.
then yeah, it makes sense to protect it. We've already established that in other parts of the NEC.
Right.
But yeah, I think the adoption piece is where the challenge may be met.
Past and what the concerns are expanding requirements. We've already expanded to other than residential applications. That happened. 708 was the first one, which was a while ago for critical operation power systems.
COPS.
Yummy fudge, a sigh. Our focus is on in-person conversations, networking, etc. I wish we would embrace the change that will happen, and that is consider online just as much as in person. Okay,
I just don't think
I'll stop
Yummy
harping
Fudge.
on it.
I don't think Yummy Fudge wants to hang out with us. Is what
I
what
know.
I'm
I think
getting.
he wants to hang out with us more
Virtually.
online. Yeah,
Yeah.
because he's like, you know what? I don't think I even want to be in person with Tom.
Well,
I don't disagree with this.
speaking as
I-
somebody that's been in person with you now for
for
like
a while
7
now.
out of the last 9 days.
I know. It's insane.
I tend to agree with you.
And you survived.
Yeah. Well,
You survived. I mean, we almost didn't survive last night,
yeah,
but we survived.
the round robin almost did us in.
He says, David Engelhardt says, I just got a NEMA Smart Brief email. Yes, there's another email you can subscribe from NEMA, or another email you can subscribe to that has a lot of really good information. NEMA's Smart Brief does a really good job of letting you know on some of the big things that are being talked about. And right now, I mean, when you look at the administration, just down the road, which I think Donnie said he was coming up here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure when.
DT.
DT, yeah. But there's a lot of changes going on, and I think there's a lot of questions about your alternative energy solutions, about electric vehicle charging equipment, about the growth now back to maybe gas and the petroleum world. So there's some dynamics going on right now. And NEMA reports on that, and NEMA provides really good information, up-to-date information through that Smart Brief. So a great resource for the electrical industry. Robert says, perfect answer. So Robert's answer was on the electrically safe work condition, what was the term? It was Justified energized work.
Justified
Yeah.
versus
Yep.
exceptions to the rule.
So he thanked you for your answer. See, this is I'm sitting next to, I'm just hoping osmosis can suck some of that knowledge right out of his brain and move it over, but I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen.
What's that quote from Billy Madison? We are all dumber for listening to you speak today. Right?
Yeah. Well, Yummy
That's
Fudge.
usually the reports I get back.
Yep, Yummy Fudge says he'd love to be in person. It's just not in the cards, but that's okay. That's why
We're just
we're
giving you a
here.
hard time, Yummy Fudge.
Yeah, we're giving you a hard time, but that's why we're doing these programs, and that's the motivation. That's why I started this stuff. It was during COVID. You know, if there's anything that good came out of COVID, it was a smack in my face to tell me that we can share our knowledge online. I did my first live stream. It was actually not a Teams meeting. I used WebEx. I had 900 and some people in the class. 900 and some people. And then I realized that we can share and educate through these platforms. So Yummy Fudge, hang in there. We're here for you. We're not letting you go. So Susan says, I'm supporting the overall expansion due to the logic and safety of equipment, property, past the individual items, services. Oh yeah, so, and that's another big misconception. And Susan, you're gonna like the IAEI Changes book. John McCamish is doing some graphics to help everybody understand the language. It's not just 230. You have Article 215 requirements for surge. So you got 230 that covers the services. You have 215 that covers the feeders and feeder supplied equipment. And there is a lot of, I think, misinterpretations or misunderstandings between those two. And we're going to dig in deep in the analysis of changes book and presentation with some good graphics and some good verbiage to help clarify that. So stay tuned for that. Thank you. Steve, SPDs can potentially protect relays, contacts, and other controls and safety switches and devices internal. Absolutely. Yeah. That could lead to cascading failures and damage and hazards. Absolutely, Steve. Laurel from Omaha or in Omaha. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I love her. She always reminds. I never say it. I never even think about it. And she is Johnny on the spot. So Laurel on the spot. So thank you. Nihad, I remember that first live stream during COVID. Yeah, it was. It was a very interesting experience. It taught me there's value in person, but there's also a lot of people who can't get. We have conversations just like you and I. I mean, we'll sit down after a meeting and chat about things. Other people don't have that experience, and I think that's important. What does Rudy say? I want all the IAEI members to understand how important it is to share the IAEI News link on all social media platforms. Like it, share it, build membership. Absolutely right. There is value in membership, and I learned that I didn't really realize this until later. There's a great interface where you can connect with others through the IAEI's website.
Yeah.
And I get messages through that website because I'm an IAEI member. Other IAEI members like do friends, almost like
it's like a social media,
like a social media
forum
thing, yeah.
or whatever. But it talk about another opportunity for interaction and networking in a digital space, right?
Absolutely. So Rudy, you are right. Share it and share it often. That's just like voting in Chicago. Most opposition to the GFCI, AFCI, SPD is attributable to lack of knowledge when being pushed, yes, by people who fail to troubleshoot when this technology gives them trouble. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Steve. I agree with you 100%. And even Yummy Fudge agrees as well. I love it. So we are at 4 minutes over, so we went a little over, but I couldn't help
with the bill now.
with
Wait
a
till
guest.
You get my bill for
yeah.
overtime.
Yes, I absolutely love it. I enjoyed chatting with you. For some reason, when I turn my head, I think it goes. Tell me, is that blurry? Did it go blurry?
Yeah, but then it fixes.
Oh, does it fix? Okay.
Yeah, then it fixes itself.
Yeah, whenever I turned my head to talk to you, and then I looked back, and it was like blurry, and then it comes back in cue. So
Well, it's the fancy
Anyway.
cameras that you got.
I gotta put it on manual focus, but I'm not good at focusing because I need these spectacles. All right, everybody, look at it as not giving us trouble, rather helping identify where a problem is. Yeah, Nihad El Sharif says the happy medium is to use both in person and online. Tommy D in the house. Thank
Tommy
you.
D.
Good idea. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
I
Thanks
tell
for finally having me on. I appreciate it.
I had to drive all the ways over here to DC, and you had to fly all the ways from the great state of Wisconsin.
Go Pack.
Go Pack, or go back. And we did an IAEI News Live, and I look forward to doing many more on good topics and seeing everybody out there on Code Question of the Day
Absolutely.
Spotlight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Thank you, Laurel, and thanks everybody. Yummy Fudge, Steve, Specker. I got to get that right one of these days. Nihad El Sharif, Rudy Garza in the house. He's tuning in.
Ryan Jackson.
That's right, Ryan. Susan, man, I used to love going down to Tennessee and doing those sessions. Oh my gosh. We went to, I think the restaurant's closed now. It was a grocery store. David Englehart, Laurel, Robert from Omaha, thank you. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week on the next IAEI News Live.
Like and subscribe.
Act now. Thanks, Cal.
Thank you, sir.
All right, signing off. See ya.